The international community of the Red Cross says it is extremely concerned by the worsening humanitarian situation in Nigeria's northeast. It says the conflict in the region has left more than 55,000 people displaced in just 2 months, with more of them thronging to safer settlement for fear of their lives. Just days ago, shortage of food caused some internally displaced persons in Borno State to protest. The IDPs from Teachers Village Camp in Maiduguri went on rampage as they complained they had been neglected by government. And they said only 3 in 10 people in camp got food cards that were issued by the Red Cross on Tuesday. They were brought under control by police and some military officers. The Teachers Village Camp is one of the largest, with 20,000 people, including most of those recently displaced from Baga in Borno State. And meanwhile, the National Emergency Management Agency has reacted to the protest by internally displaced persons in Teachers Village Camp in Maiduguri, saying it wasn't caused by hunger or lack of food supplies. The agency claims some people outside the camp tried to interrupt the profiling of the IDPs by Red Cross officials, a situation NEMA says caused commotion and riot. And NEMA spokesperson Sani Dati says the situation has been brought under control. And the report there was that about the IDPs protested for about 3 hours when they did, before everything was brought under control. Now, joining us on phone is our correspondent in Borno State, Kolomi Dala, to talk to us about this before we get into introduce other guests. Kolomi, good morning. It's good to have you join us right now. There has been a lot of concern when it comes to humanitarian crisis, a situation there in Maiduguri, especially the IDP camps. Can you talk to us how bad the issue is for IDPs to protest? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
All right. Talk to us about how bad the situation is for IDPs to protest like they did in Maiduguri a few days ago. Yes,
the situation in that particular camp, Teachers Village camp, was prompted by lack of communication and lack of understanding between the various groups that are involved in maintaining the humanitarian situation in that camp. What actually happened was, when these IDPs actually came in, the responsibility of IOM, which is responsible of registering, accrediting whoever that comes into the camp, falls short of them identifying those that were supposed to be admitted in that camp and those coming from outside. So they had this kind of gap between communication between the IOM, NEMA, SEMA, and other agencies that are supposed to take care of the IDPs. So when the IDPs came in, some were registered and some were not registered. So when the International Red Cross came in to give out the food cards, they couldn't find out a proper number of those that were supposed to have. While meanwhile some got and some couldn't get. That was what prompted the rampage by these protesting IDPs.
All right. Some of the IDPs spoken to say that they have been made to go the middlemen. They are made to get their cards through middlemen, the Bulamas, which they say have not been fair to them at all. And in fact, they even accuse some of the Bulamas of bringing their relatives and children from outside the camp to pretend they were IDPs. Talk to us about that.
Exactly. Well, SEMA and NEMA yesterday actually briefed us, and they said they would curtail that situation. The IDPs, they themselves have their own issues, because sometimes when these efforts are being made to actually curtail their pains and suffering, some of the bad eggs amongst them actually still carry out this food out of the camp and sell them out back to the market where these food items were brought from. So it is rather a dicey situation whereby we have a kind of an irony of the whole situation, whereby IDPs are being supported, but some bad eggs among them, especially the Bulamas, who actually are causing more of the problem to the IDPs, they actually liaise with those buyers and sellers of these particular food items. So you find out that some of them, after selling the cash that they have with them, they are being restricted of movement. They are being not allowed to go out anyhow because of security reasons. Some of them actually starve. because they have their cash on them, but they're not allowed to go out to buy another food because they've already been supplied. So we have this situation going on, but the NEMA now is actually, because we have a military commander now that is up and doing, he has told us they are going to curtail that situation. They are going to actually see to that particular bad situation coming to an end very soon.
All right. Now, who coordinates all the various agencies, international agencies there? Who coordinates their activity to ensure unison and unison of purpose? Who does that?
It is the International Office of the Migration, where we have a kind of body where we have these UN agencies coming together under one umbrella. It is the IOM that actually coordinates all other agencies, the UNICEF, Doctors Without Borders, MSF, and so on. They all come under the same umbrella. So they play their own part. Meanwhile, some other people use that situation to actually perpetuate other evil acts by actually making other agencies to look as if they are not functioning well. Because yesterday, the brief by NEMA and SEMA made us to have a kind of another picture of the whole situation, another scenario, whereby we just felt sorry for the agencies because they are doing their best, actually. Because when they tell us that they give out 59 kilograms of food items, which is above the required best practices worldwide, which is the normal 50 kg, but they give above that 59 kilograms in excess for them to survive. But some of them still carry out these food items to go out. So, I don't know. IOM coordinates these things, but we don't see them actually coming out to talk to us. That's where we have problem. Because when you still try to have them talking to us directly, they try to shut down their gates and tell us they don't have ways of talking to the media unless they talk from Abuja. And we are here, we are seeing situation, we are talking of Abuja. So this we have this kind of disparity.
All right. Let me ask you this before you go now. If the Bulamas are having enough food to even sell outside illegally, and we have IDPs complaining of hunger, what from the report you have got, or how adequate is the food available, the one that the government gave to them? Because we understand in the beginning of January, a ration of food was given to them, which should last for 1 month. But they are saying, IDPs who protested said that the food wouldn't even last them a week.
Well, it depends on how you manage, because they give that 59 kg to a household of 6 people. So when you come, you are only 2. And then you are giving that amount of food, that should be sufficient enough. But as I've earlier told you, some of them sell this particular for them. Those ones that rampaged that day were not giving anything. Even if they were giving, they were even supported by those that are they were already staying in the camp. So we have a kind of lack of coordination, as I've earlier told you. But now efforts are being made to kind of decongest that particular camp, because that camp is overstretched. And the government now is making efforts to actually open another new camp where we have about 12,000 IDPs there now. From the displacement now, we have about 39,000 now in that particular camp.
Wow.
So now they are reconstructing new camp where they will be able to decongest that place and probably manage the IDPs properly.
Okay. Thank you very much, Kolumidala, for the updates there from Maiduguri. Thank you. That's our correspondent there. Now, with us in the studio is the communication coordinator of the International Committee of Red Cross, Vincent Puget. It's good to see you in the studio.
Good morning.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Good morning. And we also have in the studio Public Relations Officer of the International Committee of the Red Cross, Aliu Dawobe. Aliu, good morning.
Oh, good morning.
Nice to see you.
Nice to see you too.
All right. Now, let me start with you, Vincent. There was, excuse me, there was a press release recently by the ICRC, particularly on Monday. I talked about the escalating wave of displacements in the Northeast since 2017. In fact, it was said to be the highest displacement since 2017 until now. Talk to us about this.
Yeah, indeed. That's the worry for us at that moment. I mean, in Maiduguri especially, I mean, you have already a huge number of people who have been displaced. I mean, scattered in various camps, in more than a dozen camps. And now, since beginning of this year, I mean, you have more than 30,000 people that arrive within a few days, and that's scattered throughout these various camps. So for us, I mean, our aim is to provide them with emergency assistance. but how to identify them, how to make the distinction between those who just arrived, who have most of the needs because they have lost sometimes everything, they're left with nothing, and those who have been there for some time that are already facing some needs, but not as much as the one who newly arrived. So that's a big challenge for us. So that's why we started already assisting them with some essential household items like blankets, mats, mosquito nets, so on and so forth. This has started 1 week ago. And so far we have distributed to almost half of the newly arrived, but it's a work in progress with other humanitarian actors. We're trying to also give them some food and some access to water when they will be moved to the new camp, because that's a problem also. I mean, the camp are overcrowded. So the authorities have decided to open a new camp. That's where the distribution will take place more easily also.
All right, Ali, paint a picture for us. This new wave of escalations of humanitarian issues and also displacement, the military make us understand that they have curbed. In fact, we've been reading news recently of how the military has been repelling Boko Haram terrorists one way or the other. So from the report you're getting, how is this taking place?
I don't actually want to talk about the military because they are a different set of authorities, but I will really talk about the ICRC, the activities we have been doing in terms of relating to the communities in the field, and also being able to make them understand the type of activities we do and how we do these activities. And this is actually something we keep to insist to do so that we won't have this type of challenges we are having now. People should be able to understand the International Committee of the Red Cross as a neutral, independent humanitarian actor in the field, and also be able to respect humanitarian actors when they are working. So this is the main thing I will really mention about this.
Yeah, we from the figures, 55,000 people displaced in 2 months and 30,000 arrived Maiduguri. How challenging is that for the ICRC when it comes to assistance?
Of course, it will be very challenging, because if you look at 30,000 people coming within a time frame of a week or so, it will really be a very challenging activity to do. Identification of these people, trying to assess their needs. Of course, they're left with, like Vincent mentioned, they're left with nothing, and they are coming into an IDP camp that they really need a lot to make their lives livelihood again.
Okay. Well, I think we have a guest on phone now. Joining us on phone from Borno State is the head of the federal government food intervention in Maiduguri, Comrade Salisu Danjuma. Comrade Danjuma, it's good to have you join us now. Good morning.
Yeah, good morning, and thank you for having me.
Thank you. Now, there is so much concern, especially when IDPs protest, because when it comes to IDPs knowing their rights enough to say, okay, we are hungry on one hand, we're not treated humanely. Talk to us how bad the situation is.
It's okay. Thank you once again for having me. Before I comment on your question, let me first of all appreciate TVC channels, because your media station is one of the most prominent stations here in Maiduguri.
Thank you.
They have been very up and doing. Wherever we have activities, they make out time out of their test schedule to attend to whatever we are doing.
Thank you.
Now, I must say that the first information that the IDPs were protesting because of lack of food was not correct. It was wrong. We addressed this issue, and yesterday there was a joint press statement between the State Emergency Management Agency and NEMA, where we made it very clear that it was not as a result of food shortages. Now, on the 15th precisely of January was when we gave the IDPs in Teachers Village camp food. 19,506 IDPs, among from the new arrivals, were given food. And before then, we had 12,000 IDPs in that Teachers Village camp. And we attended to all of them. We gave them 59.8 kilograms of food items, and that is to last them for a period of 1 month. So the next cycle is supposed to come up on the 15th of February. However, because of the election, upcoming election, the Director General, Engineer Mustafa Mehaja, has directed that we should commence giving them food for the month of February, so that the election will not interrupt the distribution of food to the IDPs. And that is the truth situation of the things in Maiduguri.
All right. How concerned, Comrade Danjuma, how concerned are you when IDPs say that they don't like the idea of going through Bulamas to get their registered cards?
Yeah, that also must be put in perspective. The organization that is responsible for registering IDPs is the International Organization for Migration, IOM. They are the ones that receive the IDPs at the reception centers. They register them before allowing them into the camps. However, when that was done, the Bulamas, who are the leaderships of the IDPs, they came up to say that in the course of the registration, a lot of people came from outside to register, and they were not carried along in the course of the registration. So they requested that the ICRC should make use of the list they produce. I must say that the idea is not just to use their list, but to compare their list with the IOM registration list. In a situation where you are attending to IDPs, you must hear from the two sides of the divide, and you try to balance up. Now, it is a suggestion they brought, which ICRC is trying to consider. We get the input from them, and then we compare it with the list of the registration that was done by the IOM. And in that case, we will be in a better position to verify the claim, if there are people from outside or there are no people from outside. At the end of everything, every IDP in the camp will be attended to, and all those that are non-IDPs will be sent away. So the idea is not the Bulamas that are carrying out the registration. The Bulamas are only making out a suggestion that we think is going to improve the situation.
Yeah, but there was an allegation from some of the IDPs that the Bulamas are not fair in the distribution because they are seen to be in charge, and sometimes they give food to relatives and even children who are not in the camps.
That also information must be corrected. We don't give food to the IDPs.
No, okay.
What NEMA does is we do, since the coming in of the present DG, Engineer Mustafa Mihaja, he has introduced a system which entails that going from door to door of the IDPs to give them food. We enumerate them with our food vouchers. We give food vouchers to individual IDPs. And during our distribution, we go from one house to the other to give the food directly to the beneficiaries. And that has helped in eliminating all sorts of complaints and any form of people coming from outside to collect the food. So we don't give food to the IDPs to distribute the food to the we don't give food to the Bulamas to give out to the IDPs, but we give to the IDPs themselves. We go from one house to the other to give food to the IDPs. All
right, let me stay with you on this. What criteria do you use to give, to ration the food, especially when some people have a smaller family or a larger family of maybe 2, 3, 4, or some people have 2 wives with 7 children and so on? What do you consider in sharing this food to them?
It's okay. Internationally, there is a system of feeding displaced people. It is internationally agreed that 50 kilograms of food items is to last a household of 6 for a month. This will provide them with 200 calories of energy for 30 days. Now, where you have an IDP coming in with a family size of 8, for instance, it is more than the 6. Now, what we do is we give him the ration for 6, and then we look for somebody that comes in with a family of 4. Now, we give him another ration for 6, but he is to make out a portion of 2 and give it to the to the IDP that comes with a family size of 8. So in that case, he has gotten what is due to an IDP with a family size of 8, while the one with some family size of 4 receives what is due for a family size of 4. And as I said earlier, this is an internationally established standard. However, as your correspondent reported, we have even gone beyond that. What we give is not just the 50 kg, but we give out 59.8 kilograms to the IDPs. And I must also say this, that NEMA in particular, we cover more than 23 camps in Maiduguri, in Borno State, more than 23 camps, and since June 2017, NEMA has been attending to the IDPs in camps, and we never had any complaint of food shortages. We have been up on our game.
All right, Comrade Salisu Danjuma, the head of the federal government food intervention program. Thank you very much for joining us from me.
Commander M.S. Danjuma is commander, not
Commander. Sorry, Commander. Yes. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
All right, thank you. All right, we still have Aliu that will be with us in the studio, as well as Vincent Pujet here, the communication coordinator of the ICRC. Now, Vincent, when it comes to the issue of, we understand Maiduguri alone has about 1 million IDPs with about 14 camps within Maiduguri alone. Mm-hmm. There's also the idea of opening new camps for new people. Now, in each camp, what are the criteria in saying, okay, this camp is full, let's move to the next camp, as the case may be?
That's a decision that was taken collaboratively with the authorities and IOM, to open a new camps to cope with the current situation. So it's only about one new camp, not several camps.
Is there any regulation to have a certain number of IDPs within a camp?
Actually, I guess people do look at what is practically feasible. In terms of access to sanitation, access to food, whatever. And when you go to Maiduguri, when you go to the camp or teacher village in particular, it's kind of obvious that there's too many people and they cannot go. Number of latrines are not sufficient, so on and so forth. So it can create a lot of problems with this proximity and this big number of people in the same place. So that's why the authority decided to
I understand the ICRC is helping to build temporary shelter for about 1,500 households. Talk to us about that.
Yeah, exactly. That's the new camp. That's already started. The building of the new shelters is part of the shelters that will be built for the whole camp, because this camp is supposed to house between 12 to 14,000 people. Okay. That's temporary shelter to provide the families with a basic minimum roof where they can sleep, because we talk about families with a lot of children, and you can imagine with malaria, what they can go through when they're outside of their home. So, in addition to that, what we already started is to provide them with some emergency household items like mosquito nets, mats, so on and so forth. And so far, half of the population that newly arrived have received this from ICRC in the various camps where they are.
All right. Aliu, besides the security challenge in there, can you talk to us about the humanitarian, the sanitation around the camps or within the camps?
Usually, the expert we have on water and sanitation in the ICRC visit these camps from time to time to be able to understand the situations that have to do with sanitation, clean water provision in these camps, and also try to see how to meet up these needs by the populations that are in these camps. So these are some of the few things that are done. Also, working very closely with the IDPs and together with the Nigerian Red Cross, that is a movement partner to the ICRC, volunteers are trained on how to actually train some of the communities coming in on sanitation and hygiene.
How many other agencies does that are under the umbrella of the ICRC?
The ICRC, sorry, the ICRC is one of the movement partners. We have the ICRC as one of the components that is managing armed conflict and violence, and we also have the International Federation of Red Cross and Red Crescent Societies that is managing natural disasters. And then we also have the Nigerian Red Cross that is also supporting these partners, both the ICRC and the Federation. So they have a broader mandate that has to do with supporting ICRC in terms of armed conflict and violence, and also supporting the International Federation in terms of natural disasters. So they play a dual support, but they are also a component of the movement.
Vincent, how much support are you getting from the government of Nigeria and government agencies in carrying out the humanitarian assistance to these people?
It's good collaboration, and most of our funding are coming from states, from various states of the world. The International Committee of the Red Cross is working over 80 states in the world, and our budget is mainly funded by states. And the fact that we have been able to launch this emergency response in Maiduguri, for instance, I mean, this is a sign of the good collaboration with authorities. I mean, where there's no lack of cooperation, I mean, it's much more challenging, but I think that's good.
Well, besides that, are you getting support from the state government and even the local governments within Borno State in this activity?
And that's where the movement play into as its own role, because as Aliou mentioned, the International Committee of the Red Cross is part of this big Red Cross and Red Crescent family. Okay. And part of this family is the National Red Cross Society, the Nigerian Red Cross here. And they work a lot as auxiliary of the state authorities when it comes to humanitarian assistance. That's the reason of being having a National Red Cross Society, so that when the authorities cannot cope with the challenges in terms of humanitarian needs, that's where the Red Cross, National Red Cross step in.
Okay. Now, Aliou, the escalating humanitarian situation, the displacement of people from your press briefing that you gave is still on, but what is your advice generally when it comes to how this can be handled from the eyes of the ICRC? Now, Vincent, let's, before we round off now, talk to us about access to communities where IDPs and people who need help are resident. How much of access do you have, and how much of support do you have in gaining access to those places?
Yeah, you tackle a very interesting topic, and that's actually critical for us. I mean, we talk about the thousands of IDPs that did arrive in Maiduguri, but much more did land somewhere else in the northeast, and some in places where humanitarian actors have no access. That's a big challenge of the moment. So, I mean, I just want to seize this opportunity also to launch an appeal, I mean, to the communities, to all the parties to the conflict, and to do their best to facilitate access to humanitarian actors, to the people in need. Because we are talking about people that have been displaced many times, children, women, that are in need of assistance. If not, I mean, many will die.
All right. Aliou, when it comes to this humanitarian issue, we certainly can't have enough of it because everyone needs assistance one way or the other. What would be the what is the ICRC needing as assistance from people and agencies and all of that? How much of support would you really want people to give?
Yes, thank you. To talk about communities is just to re-emphasize on what the coordinator just mentioned about having access. At the same time, we want people to understand that the Red Cross, especially the ICRC, is an organization that is a neutral organization. It does not partake in the conflict that is going on. The aim of the organization is mainly to assist people affected by this conflict. So this should be very clear. People should understand very clearly that this is our mandate to assist people affected by conflict and also to facilitate access to these people. At the same time, we will also use this medium to appeal to the actors of the conflict to actually respect the international humanitarian law, the law of conflict. Civilians are not supposed to be a target in this conflict. Children, women actually need food to eat. Health care facilities should also be spared because everybody needs health care and so on and so forth. So these are actually some of the appeal we would like to push to the public to understand that the ICRC is actually a neutral organization and we really have to assist people that are affected by this conflict. One of the key things we would love is actually for the conflict to come to an end, because if it comes to an end, it will help us to actually see how we can try to rebuild the livelihood of these people that have been affected by this multiple displacement, if you like.
All right, Aliou Lahobe, PRO ICRC, thank you for coming. And Vincent Pojet, Communications Coordinator, thank you very much for coming on the program.
Thank you very much.